good news on this front is that product manufacturers and online platforms have made it easier than ever before to manage privacy and safety online, regardless of whether you're a child or an adult. The best way to tackle this is from the very outset. So when you're setting up a new device, enable things like screen time management and disable things like in-app purchases. It's very simple to do. You don't need to be a tech genius to figure it out. There are also very good guides online. So if you're unsure, pop it into Google and you will find a handbook to guide you through it. Set up a device using an account you have access to. This will allow you to see what apps, photos, and contacts are stored on the phone. It'll still give your child a decent level of privacy, but then you can check in to ensure nothing untoward is going on. This is very useful if a particular app, for example, is heavily associated with cyberbullying and you hear talk about it in the media. You can then pop on and ensure that your child doesn't have the app. If they do have the app, you can have a conversation and explain why you're concerned. Bringing them in on the conversation is one of the most impactful ways of navigating this digital journey. It's also worth having a conversation with your child about phishing, scams, and hacking. While you don't want to go or don't need to go too in depth about this, it's worth planting the seed to inform the child that this can happen. A really good way to do it is if you yourself receive a phishing email. Sit down with your child, if they're of tween or teenage, and explain to them that this email looks legitimate, but it's not, and explain to them how it's not, why it's not, and explain the consequences. If you click on that link, all of a sudden all of your money could be gone, and that would be no fun for anyone. Bring them in on the conversation and alert them to the fact that this stuff does happen. It happens all the time. We're seeing smarter, more sophisticated hacking and phishing attempts. It can happen on WhatsApp, it can happen on text, it can happen on email, it can happen on any of the social platforms. So the best thing you can do is make them aware of it from the very outset. One of the biggest concerns when it comes to online activity is that very often what happens online stays online. A digital footprint is a very hard thing to scrub clean. Just because your child sends a message to one person, that doesn't mean another person won't end up seeing it or get access to it. That can have devastating consequences for both the child, the family, the school, and so on. Explain these things from the very outset. Don't just make it about when they're trying to get a job and do you want your future employee to see that photograph. There's more to it than that. A good practice and a good rule to sort of instill in the child is treat others online as you would like to be treated, and never post anything online that you wouldn't want your grandmother to see.